fear, that's a natural reaction. It's kind of primal emotion, because we live in a fear realm, actually. When you contemplate, and we create a world like a human civilization, culture is about creating a sense of security, to feel safe, because the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, is really the way that the planet is. It's about big fish eating little ones, and survival, procreation, survival, and protecting yourself, your young, your family, and then there's so many unknown factors and mysteries, like the heavens and the sun and moon, the stars. So throughout human civilization is always creating, some kind of way of dealing with the mystery, the unknown, the vastness, the terrifying vastness that we can be aware of, but we're limited to a very vulnerable human form. So when you think about it, it's rather terrifying. And then just think about your own society, how, we have laws, and we all agree about, that killing somebody is a criminal offense, or stealing, lying. So we have agreements on, not, having laws to that human society agrees to. Otherwise we couldn't, it'd be even more terrifying. But the ignorant part is kind of holding to, wanting to keep that false sense of security, because that's where we feel safe, and we can relax in that false sense of security. Then meditation is waking up, and so it is a bit terrifying, because you're breaking through the illusions that you've been conditioned with. But also in a Buddhist tradition, we take the refuges in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, things like this. For a Buddhist, like in Thailand, where people are, culturally attuned to Buddhism, then that also gives you a sense of security, because you're actually taking refuge in truth and reality and in compassion and goodness, good qualities, awakened attention, and that's a way in a Buddhist traditional form that you deal with the fear. And then also just be aware of fear. Like fear has a lot of power over you when it can frighten you, and then you run away from it or suppress it. It loses its power the moment you just recognize, I know you. You're kind of looking at fear rather than just trying to get rid of it or run away. And so it's an illusion, and it's like a ghost. If it comes towards you and you run away, it has power over you. The minute you just turn around and look at it, it vanishes into thin air. So like mindfulness is to trust that awareness, and you're in a safe place, like here at Nanachat. The intention here, everybody's trying to be good and refrain from doing bad things, and a high level of integrity engendered here. Nobody's out to get you, or it's not. You don't have to. You're pretty safe on in the human way here, because of the commitment to the moral precepts and the intention of the people living here to not cause harm to anything, to try to be honest and not deceive or lie to anyone, things like this. So that's important to reflect that you're in a safe place just right now, physical environment, and then when you meditate, then fear comes up. See it as opportunity too. If it gets overwhelming, just do something else, or go to the breath, or change your attention to something. But encouraging also to just look at the feeling of fear, because then you're weakening its power over you when you know it. But if you just keep running every time it appears, you're empowering it actually. You're making it more powerful. And then the ultimate in the Dhamma is the deathless, amatta Dhamma, or the deathless reality. So people are afraid of death, and death is, and we're all going to die anyway sometime. So the human body, when its time comes, it dies, and this is a death realm that we're in actually. Everything around you changes, and as you're getting older, and you're seeing your parents get old, and your grandparents die, and like for me at my age, everybody's dead. All my parents, my teachers, all the people that were really important in my life, most of them have died. And then but then we reflect on that. That's just the natural flow of things. What is born dies. And that which is aware is actually the deathless reality. And so when you begin to trust it more, then you can deal with fear, with death, with loss, with grief, with whatever happens to you in your lifetime. You have a way of learning from it and strengthening your practice, even through tragedy or grief and whatnot. Some of us don't really develop much wisdom till we have to really rise up and look at something that we're most frightened of or most distressed about. So, modern material life is to make life comfortable, easy, a sense of security and safety built on illusions, having money in the bank and owning your own house, and then you want to get married and have this sense of a secure family, a loving relationship that will last, and all these kind of ideals that make us feel we're safe and the future is guaranteed for happiness. But ultimately, we know the future is uncertain.
So is there something that's helpful in the fear? Like, is it that, as you're kind of opening up and raising your awareness, you have to be because my fear is telling me I need to be cautious because it's like I can't handle it too quickly. Is that true, or is that just also...
Well, that's how you feel right now. But don't think you have to, just get there all at once. I mean, but just, if you find it too unbearable, and do something else. But also, don't believe your mind when it says, I can't bear it. It's too much, because the mind will say that, but our minds lie to us. I don't know how many times I've gone through that here in Thailand with training in the early years. I've had enough. I can't stand any more of this. The mind would be inside saying, I'm fed up. Can't stand anymore. And then I realized I could. So that kind of strong feeling, I can't bear it anymore. This is enough. I began to see I can't believe it because it's not true. But it sounds convincing at the time. So you're breaking through a lot of this belief in what you think, and because we tend to believe in these things that I'm fed up, had enough, or I can't take anymore. As we tend to easily be intimidated and believe in it. But if you just develop a little more patience with it, you'll see it doesn't have anything to it. And what you think you can't stand, you begin to see you can. You find you're much better than you believe you are or think you are. You're much stronger than your mind might perceive yourself as being. That's like in the challenges I've had in my life, where life can get very difficult and a lot of disappointments. In monastic life, a lot of monks disrobing and people being disillusioned and being criticized and blamed for things, and you feel, on a personal level, you can feel fed up and hurt and offended and all that. But then during those times when I'm kind of at the bottom, something in me rises to practice with that. So I've gained a lot of strength from being blamed or criticized or through loss, of what I like, and through disappointments, rather than they're ruining my life. Actually, through meditation, it actually gives me increasingly more strength, because I have to rise up to it. If all I ever get is just, you're the great monk and every life is just wonderful, then I'm, that's pleasant enough, and that's on a personal level. I like that kind of thing. But the strength comes through, the real strength and wisdom come through when life gets difficult. When you don't get what you want, when you lose the one you love, when you lose all your money, and the government takes away your property. These are all what we dread, but actually, they can be the very experiences that awaken us. Because we have to rise up, we have to be better than we feel like being.
And let me ask a question into this line. So how about preparing for those events? Like we come from Bangladesh school here from Chiang Mai, and we run the school, and now we go to the retreats, and we have all these problems in our head, the things that come to the school, the things that arise from the outside world.
What school is it?
Excuse me?
What school is it?
Bangladesh school in Chiang Mai, a Buddhist school. Tanchaya Saro is advising us.
Oh yeah.
So we come, and the fears, of course, are there all the time, and so we have two things. One is look at ourselves and say, okay, this is the fear in me. But on the other hand, we have so many Lugnong, we have employees, we have families to protect, to take care of, right? So just looking at myself and trying to overcome my personal fears is a very noble thing to do, but on the other hand, there's some responsibilities outside too. So I'm not really sure where the line there is.
Well, if you awaken to observe more, then you're able to deal with the worldly problems much better, rather than just being caught in reacting to worldly pressures, which we tend to do. And we can then make decisions that are wrong because we're just reacting. But if you're more patient and observing, then you'll have more insight in what to decide, what decisions to make, and it'll come more from an intuitive place rather than because your mind, your conditioned mind, can change from one day. Solution A is the right one, and then overnight suddenly, B is better, and the next day, no, A. You get caught in vacillating and indecision and doubt. And that's where the patient endurance, mindfulness will help you to, you begin to come from a deeper place, the right decision. What to do, how to do the best for your family, yourself, and the school. So where if you look at it just on a personal level, the personality is so conditioned that then we have our own particular karmic attachments and preferences that influence everything we think and do in life, which can cause more problems. Or this way, it's much more. It's intuitive and it's reflective, and then wisdom can operate through that, the panya faculty. Because life is, we're in a world that is basically ignorant. People don't know what they're doing. And any country government that knows actually what it's doing. They all form opinions and vote for one left or right, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what's happening, what to deal with the economy or a political situation, or how to create the conditions for peace, world peace. And we talk about it, we like world peace and harmony and United Nations all working together, supporting each other in good causes, and we can think, the highest level of idealism. But the world is like this. Everything's changing and moving, and we don't have much control over it. And it's not always moving the way toward the ideal that we have. Things come and go and change. So the best we can do is learn to, as a human individual, you can develop wisdom. And that wisdom then is like a universal wisdom. It's not personal wisdom, or it's not knowing about all the wise sages and learning from others. It's actually opening yourself to universal wisdom. That's what the goal of meditation is, to open to that, to allow wisdom to inform your life rather than just operating from your cultural conditioning and your ego sense of yourself as a human body, a separate person. And that's what, like the Buddha, this is the brilliance of the teaching of the Buddha, is that it is a very efficient tool to use if used properly. Because it's the Buddha is taking, the First Noble Truth is suffering, and this is a common experience for all of us. And so even though, in the West, people will say, well, Buddhism is an ancient religion, it was appropriate for India 2,500 years ago, and they go on like that. And But and they can dismiss Buddhism as only something kind of interesting for its past history. When you look at the actual teaching of the Buddha, it's based on a common human reality that everybody has, whether it's from ancient India or modern Thailand, and that's dukkha, suffering. And so this is taking the most common experience that we can all recognize through, whether you're rich or poor, male or female, or whatever social position or ethnic background, we all agree dukkha. We all have it. Nobody wants it. We all like to get away from it, get rid of it, and find eternal happiness. What people want is happiness forever and ever. But the Buddha raised this, what we don't want, as a noble truth. And that's very important to see once you change your attitude towards suffering, rather than just blaming it on something else. You're actually looking at it, observing it here. And that's a shift from just being an ordinary person operating out of fear and desire and habit towards looking at something you don't like and don't want. But you're not looking at it in terms of how to get rid of it. You're just admitting it. Yes, there is dukkha, there is suffering. And you're not trying to, it's not through any external thing, but it's a sense of what should I do next, or dis-ease. And it doesn't even be because somebody's, putting iron rods in your orifices. It's because right now you feel, what should I do about the school in Chiang Mai? And that you begin to observe that doubt, uncertainty, and there is dukkha, and it should be understood. So the thing is to observe, admit it, look at it, and then it goes into the causes and the cessation of dukkha. And you are always looking here, rather than trying to organize your school and your family life so everything makes you feel safe again. Through an illusion, you're actually, learning to rest in reality and in the real, rather than in illusions that might be temporarily comforting, but will inevitably disappoint you or fail you. That's why, in modern life, like in England, for example, it's just the society is, it's developed, it has democratic government, a good economy. It's, people are still miserable in England. They've got, the standard of living's high, and on so many levels, it's all right, but still, people are frightened and angry and discontented over all kinds, anything really. And then the capitalist system, the free market system, is determined to make you unhappy with what you have and be discontented. So it offers offering you something better than you bought the last year's Apple computer, and then they presented a better one this year. And what are they doing? They're trying to make you desire the better one. So it's a continuous effort toward trying to make you discontented and unhappy with what you have. And then the political system is, now the Tories, and then the Labour wants to make everybody unhappy about the Tories so that they have a chance next time. So, the whole world is based on this arousing fear, desire, and making you discontented. If everybody were contented, then the economy wouldn't work. The economy is based on making you discontented. So that even though you have everything, it's not enough. The next year they present a better version, a new fashion, something superior to last year's model. How does that affect the mind? It's just to observe that. Because like in monastic life, like a bhikkhu life, it's all about, you're being content with what you get. So, you give up you don't have money, you give up your rights, in other words. When you ordain as a bhikkhu, you're giving up your rights. You're not free to just do what you want. You can't just go and say what you feel like saying in a moment. You don't have any money. You have to live a celibate life. So, we all have a right towards sexual life, but we give that up. We give up right to have money, human rights. We all have a right to have money and be free. We give that up in order to, limit ourselves and be content with very little, like the food this morning, the bindabat food, the robe, the shelter for the night, and the medicine for illness. And so we reflect on these four requisites, and they're usually, in the scriptures, they're put at the lowest level. Like, if nobody offers me a robe or cloth to make a robe, I'm allowed to go and gather the rags that I find in a rubbish tip in Bungwai village. I can take those rags that nobody wants and make myself a robe. That's pretty low standard, But Bungwai villagers would never allow me to do that. So they always give you very nice cloth. But the attitude is to be content rather than always thinking he has a better robe than I have, and then want to get the latest, a better robe than the one you have. But if we do have those feelings, because we carry that from lay life into monastic life, but the aim is to observe the suffering involved in envy and wanting something that you think is better than what you have. And so you're moving towards this level of contentment, which is very rare in the world. And William Blake, the poet, said, he made the comment, contentment is heaven itself.
I would totally agree to this. The only thing that comes into play for us is responsibility for others. So if we are content for ourselves, sometimes we can retreat into that contentment, and then we have 200 employees, and nothing happens, and they lose their job. So,
well, contentment doesn't mean just passive. It gives you stability, and then you have to do the best you can with the situation you're in on a worldly level or social level. It doesn't make us stupid, but it gives us stability and a sense of a stable foundation to deal with the problems of life, that whether we're monks or lay people or whatever.
I have a question. As a householder, I try to go on a meditation retreat once a year. When I come back, I'm usually full of motivation, and I sit morning and evening. I have a family and I have kids, that's a job. And then I find that during the course of the year, the amount of time that I make, I discipline myself to sit reduces. And I motivation decreases, although there is still motivation there. So my question is, how do I maximize, as a householder with a busy life and a family, how do I maximize my ability and my opportunity to reach more peaceful and kind of contentment you were talking about?
Well, it's like worldly life is not peaceful. So, and the sense realm is not a peaceful realm. It's about change and birth and death and old age, sickness, and it's about loss and despair and success and that. So the conditioned realm is all about change, and then we long for peace. But you really, and then you go on a retreat, and because you're restricting the input on your senses, you're not seeking exciting experiences, and you're shutting down more, and then through sensory deprivation and lack of stimulation, then you go into a very peaceful state. But then when you get out of that, then you're back into the exciting, changing, crazy world of modern life, and so it's like, but the true nature, your true nature is peaceful, and it's always peaceful. But we don't notice that because we're trying to find peace as an ideal by maybe limiting the amount of exciting impingement. But that kind of attitude will only, you get a kind of momentary peacefulness from it, but it's not the real peace, it's not natural peace. And so, like when you meditate more on like space and consciousness, things that, rather than just trying to get calm and tranquil and peaceful, just what is like space itself is peaceful. It's like it's here and now, it's everywhere, and yet we ignore it for, we look at the things in the space. And consciousness also, we're all conscious, and it has no boundary. Consciousness is not limited, but we always create limitations by grasping conditions that are limited. Like, so you're constantly holding to conditions whose nature is to change, and you can't stop it. And they don't. They get better and better, then they get worse, and then they go up, and then they go down. So, being aware of that, understand the world and the state, and the opportunity we have to learn from it, then we get, we're not creating conditions that of suffering for ourselves or for others. And then, living in Thailand, decide I'm just going to accept Thailand for what it is. Totally accept. In the UK, I lived there for 34 years. Because I went with 2 other Americans, and Americans are always complaining about, how much better it is in the States. So I decided I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to accept Britain as it is, and the way the people are, the society, good, bad, it's good side, it's bad side. And that way, I enjoyed living there, because I wasn't there to criticize it or compare it, or to just ignore, the things that aren't very good there. It wasn't I was stupid and I just didn't notice, but I wasn't I was operating from a different place than just a personal conditioned view of how Britain should be. Same with Thailand or the United States or wherever you're from, but it's a way of changing from just being caught in our own cultural way of interpreting experience and personal preference to, being more aware, more of the totality of it, rather than just being upset and critical of the details that don't particularly please us.
I have one question. Actually, it's a lot is answer my. But when I meditate and practice, and I found my anger arise so easily, and when I know it that it's already arise, it's very strong, and it's very. I know it. I'm aware of it, but it will stay for some time hours without react, and then later it's gone. It's like completely gone. But at that time, when the anger is there and you're aware and you try to let it go, after that, it's very tiring. So I don't know how to deal with it, because I think my anger was get more often, or I aware it more, because when it comes even a little bit, so I recognize it's very fast, but it's tiring sometimes, and I just lost my energy because I look at it and so ไม่รู้จะทำยังไงค่ะท่าน
Well, with that, just sometimes you feel you've got to look at it and do something with it. But letting go of it just means don't make a problem about it. And then, like in meditation, like this happens a lot. Like when I first started meditating, when I was a samanera, and I lived in a monastery in Nong Khai for a year, and the first 3 months, it was like this cow hong practice. You go into kuti and you just stay there, and I didn't talk to anybody or anything, so I was with myself all the time, and I was hoping to be tranquilized, to live in a state of bliss, but instead the first 3 months was just anger, unrelenting anger, and it wasn't due to anything in the monastery. I mean, they were treating me very well. It was just, I was 31, and I'd repressed anger in my, from early childhood. You were punished for being angry. My parents were, said it's wrong and you shouldn't be angry and things like that. So I'd learned how to repress it. And then in that particular situation, where you don't have anything to do, and you brought a meal in the morning, and then you don't have any friends to talk, you don't have a telephone or television or anything, you're just by yourself all the time, and have no way to escape, and the repressive techniques don't work anymore. You just have to sit there and let it happen. So actually, that's what I did. I gave up trying to stop it or change it, but just allowed it to arise, because it's like something repressed, and then it starts reaching consciousness. So see that as liberating. You actually, rather than meditating badly, you're actually purifying it. like repressed resentments, fears, angers arise. And it's like a cleansing. You're letting them go so they go away from you. If you try to stop them, then you're repressing them again. So then, it's like the prisoners want to get out of the prison. They're yelling, and then you open the door and they come out, but what you see is just frightening and terrible, so you slam the door on them, then they're locked back in to create more problems. But if you open the prison gate, let the prisoners out, they go away. They don't come back. So look at it more like that.
As long as she does it when I'm not next to her.